Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Chatting with the Light Keeper. As always, I am Edward, and you are you. Welcome, and thank you for making a little time for my little podcast here. I greatly appreciate it. You making the time, taking the time to listen. And this episode, while I was actually kind of struggling with an idea to come up with for a topic, my mind drifted over to the fact that I have some unanswered messages from friends, mostly DMs, a few texts that I haven't responded to, um, and there's really no good reason for it other than I have been insanely busy, and when I've had downtime, I've sort of tuned out and enjoyed the little bit of downtime I had. I know I'm just coming off weekend, but it was absolutely packed. Spring is here. There's so much to do. It seems like it's a never-ending list of things to do. And once again, that's not necessarily a good reason for not responding. And so I was getting myself kind of worked up about that. It at least for me, I get to the point where it almost feels overwhelming. Like, oh my God, it's been 2 weeks. I need to respond, and then my brain's going, but it's been 2 weeks. What do you say? And it spirals and goes from there. And then that got me thinking about some of the crapola in my years of doing content creation and podcasting. How there's been times where I've also had to deal with people who targeted me for whatever reason, attacked the usual online trolling crap, and of course that at times left me with the impulse of saying fuck this shit, I don't need it, and wanting to just roll over to the settings and go delete, 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 screw you. Thankfully I haven't done that. I have learned how to kind of be calm and focused and to not let the trolls win, so to speak. Um, but all of that thought process got me thinking, something that is fairly common in the online realm, if you will, of BDSM and kink, is how people sort of they come and go from the lifestyle, especially online. You can have it be where somebody is a somebody that you consider a friend, and suddenly, they're there posting one day, you're exchanging DMs, and then suddenly you go to respond to a DM and they're gone. I mean, it's just gone. And, it is a bit different than in our personal lives where we know somebody in person. And if something happened to them, we know, whether it's, I don't know, as Jimmy Buffett called it, the coconut telegraph, we get word if something has happened to them. Where in the online world, even with close friends, sometimes they can just go poof, disappear, stop posting, and you're left with nothing to wonder. All you can wonder about is, did something happen to them? Did they break up with a partner? Did they get sick? Or did they just suddenly decide to take a permanent exit from the lifestyle? And with that said, I got thinking about why do people suddenly, often with a lifestyle, choose the disappearing route? Is it because we have a bunch of people in a lifestyle who find it easier to just disappear than to send a message saying, "Hey, I'm stepping away"? I don't think that's the case at all. I think that life happens and people do pull back from the lifestyle, especially when things in their lives, their in-person lives, become overwhelming. They become too much. They become like me looking at my messages on my phone going, holy crap, it's been 2 weeks. Saying I'm busy just doesn't cut it. Um, and then it snowballs in my head and makes it even harder for me to kind of reach out. And I think some of that happens online. Somebody has had perhaps a dramatic change in their life. Perhaps, their submissive has decided to, terminate the relationship, or maybe a parent got seriously ill and things that just happen to happen and they have to act on them in the real world, and they don't have the time, the energy, or you know, the the ability to handle the sort of the online presence anymore. So they just pull back when it is too much. Or maybe, maybe they decided something happened and they decided, you know what, this whole BDSM, DS, kink world is just, it's not for me anymore. And rather than send out, 10 or 12 DMs saying, hey, this isn't for me, I don't want to be around it anymore, it's just easier to, delete the profile and step away. And so that does happen. It's not, I don't think it's something that we should look at and reflect badly upon the person who steps away, steps back for whatever the reason is. Um, because one thing I've seen over and over in the lifestyle is there are people who will argue, and it's probably because it helped them greatly, that when they were having struggles of some kind, that they leaned into the lifestyle, leaned into their community rather than stepping back. And that is absolutely wonderful. Where this kind of goes off the rails for me is when someone tells somebody openly, well, you're struggling, you need to lean into your community, lean into your squad more. That's where the answer lies rather than stepping back. Um, and there isn't a right or wrong answer. We all have to do what we have to do in that period of time. But there's no reason that it's, not okay to hit pause and just step back. And sometimes just hitting pause is all you can do. Clicking over for the DMs to say, hey, I'm stepping back, or to write up a post, could very well seem too much. I know in a few cases where I've contemplated um, mashing the delete button. Granted, it's been a long time, but in the past, when I've considered it, it's one of those things where literally putting out a post that says, hey, I'm taking a break, or I don't know if I'm coming back, or here's what's going on in my life, was more than I wanted to do, more than I was probably capable of doing at the time. So I just did do that once upon a time long ago. I just said, "See ya, peace out," and it was healing. It was fantastic. It was just what I needed. So taking breaks, I believe, is healthy. It's something that we shouldn't discourage in the lifestyle. We should encourage it if that is what somebody feels that they need to do. Um, then my experience shows that the most often cited, or the most often reason given for taking a break or pressing pause, um, is that a relationship has, or is, sort of going into the tank, it's going badly, or just life is getting too much and the person is pressing pause, they're stepping back, they're doing that reevaluation thing. And sometimes when they're ready, they do return. Sometimes that pressing pause kind of lets them see just how much the lifestyle means to them, how much they want to be a part of it. And for others, sometimes when they do that and they press pause and they step back and they look at the lifestyle and say, you know what, it wasn't something for me. So they don't come back. But it is amazing that how many people I have seen pause, step away, return, hit pause again, and then come back. Sometimes they come back with a different name. Perhaps something changed and they just want to sort of have a fresh start. Other times they sort of reactivate with the same handle they had before. It's all depends on the person, but it is something that you do see in the lifestyle um, much more often than if you're new. It's much more common than what you would think. Another reason sometimes people press pause on the lifestyle, it's nothing that they've done or nothing that they're having an issue with or they're struggling with. Sometimes with our content in the world of BDSM, sometimes the content police get called on a post. Um, and if I guess the content police go up in your neighborhood enough, certain platforms will deplatform you, or they will put you on probation or a timeout for a set period of time. And sometimes it's a long period of time. And in the modern world, the content police are sophisticated and they know where you're logging in from, what your IP address is, and that's more than where somebody who works in the IT department goes to the bathroom. Uh, sorry, bad IP address joke, but they know that so that they can block your access to their platform from your devices. And that does sometimes happen, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they were posting dirty or smutty content that violated the rules. It could just be that the almighty algorithms in the AI world we live in now um, took something and went over the top with it and sort of spanked them for it. Or other times it can be a learning curve for somebody. They might have thought that their content was okay and sort of disregarded the warning or did something that just caused it to automatically kick in. So sometimes people do step away, not because of their choice, but because of the way their content was graded or judged. So I think we need to sort of extend some grace to people who might pause and then return. We most definitely aren't walking in their shoes. We may feel hurt that somebody that we've developed a friendship with has suddenly decided to press pause, and we didn't get a heads up. We just got paused. Uh, and I think it's important too that we recognize how hard it is on the person who is sort of pressing play again and coming back, especially if they do reach out to you after they have hit pause in their life. So I think we do need to do a better job as people of sort of extending some grace there because we are hurt. And if we do have a friendship with somebody online and they disappear on us and then suddenly come back, I think the very basic human emotion is to be sort of happy to see them again. I mean, if they're our friend, we're happy they're okay, but we're angry that we consider them a friend and they didn't have the ability or desire to send us that short DM that said, "Hey, a lot going on. I'm taking a break." So it can be both nice to see them again, welcoming, happy to have them, happy to see that they're okay, but also at the same time to have some perhaps resentment over the fact that happened. So I think it's important that we recognize people do come and they do go, and some come back. Sometimes it does happen over and over as they're trying to get their footing. But I think it's very important that we give them grace if they do come back, especially if they are somebody we considered our friend, rather than just letting our anger or our upset um, rule the roost, as very often can happen, especially when we're angry. It can be hard to switch off the anger and see the positive side that, you know, our friend is doing better and they're choosing to come back and to reach out to us. So that is actually surprisingly all I really have is just a short little ditty this week about how people do flex in and out of the lifestyle, and that's okay. We all have to make choices based on what is best for us. And sometimes that choice means switching off the kinktastic social media or the kinktastic ways that we can communicate, sort of cut ourselves off from the community, if you will. There isn't a monolithic BDSM community, but it is something that does happen, and I think we should be more graceful when somebody does return. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Have you had that happen where somebody that you considered a friend or a close friend um, just sort of up and disappeared from your world? And if they did return, how did you handle that? Were you able to give them grace and understand what happened, or did you make a decision that because of the way they departed, that it was in your best interest to not welcome them back, which is also very valid, because sometimes that does hurt us, the people sort of left behind. And so it's not a right or wrong answer. We all have to do what we have to do. So drop a comment wherever you're listening or watching this podcast at. That would be absolutely fantastic. And finally, I have one very selfish request. If you could, wherever you're listening, tap that like, follow, or subscribe button, or if they've got all three, if all three, it would be awesome. And what that is selfishly doing for me, it is telling our good friends in the world of AI that I am not sitting here talking into a microphone that goes out to nobody. Those little taps. Let's see. Algorithms know that there are actually people out there who are listening. So, with that said, I want to again thank you for listening. I hope you are having a fabulous week, and I look forward to chatting with you again very soon.